What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. Sixers get a big win, come from behind in the fourth quarter to beat the Wolves last night comfortably. Joel Embiid has been on an absolute tear after scoring 50 last night. In his last 8 games, he's gone for 40 plus 5 times, 50 twice, averaging 41 and 13, 62% from the field, 38% from 3, and 93% at the line. Now, like so many people who watched that game yesterday, a lot of trips to the foul line, a lot of mid-range jump shots. And, you know, it's one of those things where I think it's okay to have 2 completely separate takes on Joel Embiid. And what I mean by that is he's incredible. Him and Drew Hanlon have worked really hard to build out a super versatile skill set for Joel Embiid. And he's become a very well-rounded scorer. Obviously, the mid-range jump shot and that being deadly is the foundational piece, right? He's made 63 mid-range jumpers already this season. He's shooting 47.4% on them. Last night, he was 11 for 14 on mid-range jump shots against the Timberwolves. It's a good mix of both. It's isolation, hesitation, pull-up jump shots. It's, face-up, jab step jump shots. And then it's jump shots that he takes off the catch and pick and roll when he kind of rolls to that, 17, 15-foot mark right around the foul line, right? He's also gotten really good at feeling body contact. It's an important concept we talk about, like feeling on your shoulder blades where the defender is so that you can spin off when you have your back to the basket. He had 2 dunks like that last night, spinning off of Naz Reid, off of the right block, and then kind of off the left elbow when he was getting guarded by Kyle Anderson and saw a double team coming from the right side, very smartly spun to the left, got into the lane, and threw down the dunk. He's also deadly in catch and shoot situations this year, specifically from 3. Joel Embiid is shooting 49% on catch and shoot threes this year. Think about how insane that is. He's also passing the ball better than ever. He's averaging 6 assists per game. To give you an idea, he, in 394 games for the Sixers before this season, hit a 7 assist mark 27 times in 394 games. He's already done it 10 times this season. So he's clearly gone up a level as a passer. He's just become a remarkably difficult player to guard and very well might be the best regular season player in the NBA right now. I mean, all of that. That is the first take. The second take is that watching him drives me absolutely crazy. The foul grifting is reprehensible at this point. And for the record, before I go any further here, this is not Joel Embiid's fault. Joel Embiid is a competitor who wants to win basketball games. And so he was doing whatever is necessary to win basketball games. That is what you should do. Famously, if you guys remember, Greg Popovich used to say of the Spurs teams in the early 2010s, I should say, he used to say, "You think I want to be taking all these threes?" No, that's not what he wants to do. It's just what you have to do, in his opinion at the time, for his personnel, in order to give yourself the best chance to win, as a simple factor of math. The point being, competitors do what they have to do to win. So I'm not upset with Joel Embiid about this. Everything I'm about to say is 1,000% directed towards the NBA, them giving too much wherewithal or freedom to the officials to determine the way basketball games flow, and the officials in particular not knowing how to properly manage a basketball game. You know, it's funny because like watching this particular film, obviously with Synergy, the film software that I use, they just pick a random broadcast and they use that to filter the footage. And this one happened to be the Minnesota broadcast. So I'm watching the Minnesota broadcast. And from the early part of the game, you know, Joel Embiid's doing that thing he always does where he like gets down into the defender and then like ducks his body, sticks his arms out and just rises up into a pull-up jump shot and tries to take a shot. A complete non-basketball play, for the record. Never, ever, ever will you see in any pickup run anywhere around the country. Won't even see it really at the high school or college level because players aren't doing it, refs aren't calling it. But you'll never see that shot. Why? Because what is the purpose of the pull-up jump shot in basketball? The purpose of the pull-up jump shot in basketball is a coverage beater. Okay, I'm isolating the guy and he's giving me too much space. I'm going to hit a little step back to get a little bit more space, and I'm going to rise up and take this jump shot. Or in the post, I'm going to bump him with that left shoulder, knock him off, and turn over my right shoulder and take a shot because I've created separation between me and the defender. That's the Kawhi Leonard move, right? I'm coming off of this ball screen and pick and roll. I've got the defender pinned on the pick. Drop coverage big is too far back. I'm going to rise up and take this pull-up jump shot. That is what basketball says a pull-up jump shot should be. So why in the world is Joel Embiid going into defenders and deliberately extending the basketball, making it available for contact, and then taking shots when that's objectively a bad basketball play? It's a lower percentage shot for him. If that call never got called, Joel Embiid would have to create separation before shots, which, by the way, he's great at. He's great at that too. But we're sending him to the foul line more than a dozen times per game on shit like that that's not a basketball play. That's objectively a bad basketball play that Joel Embiid, the competitor, does to increase his offensive output. It was crazy listening to the broadcast and hearing the Timberwolves guys just like as Embiid's work, because, I mean, he was 11 for 14 on mid-range jump shots. So you can tell he was operating in that area a lot in this game. And that's 14 shot attempts that registered in the box score. Think about all the ones that didn't count because he didn't make the shot, right? He's operating almost exclusively out of that area. And you can hear the Wolves announcers like, watch your hands, watch your hands. You can literally see the defenders and they're all like spazzing and they're like terrified that they might, if they contest the shot, they might send Joel Embiid to the foul line. And it's bad on a bunch of different levels. One, it's objectively bad for the game of basketball. Why? Because it makes for a bad television product. I watch a lot of basketball. It's my job. And like, unquestionably, watching these Sixers games is a chore. I find things that I love. I told you guys, like some of Embiid's footwork in the post is always super impressive to me. The pivot moves we were talking about earlier, feeling contact. We're going to talk about Tyrese Maxey in a minute and some of the stuff that he's been doing lately that I really, really like. There's a lot of things that I like in there, but it's being bisected and cut apart by this relentless foul grifting attack from Joel Embiid that makes it a bad television product. And then the second part of it is, every year we get to April and suddenly the refs decide they don't want to reward that with free throws as much. They still occasionally do, but nowhere near as frequently. So the refs are telling you, we don't think this is basketball in April, May, June. But they allow it to be basketball in October, November through the early portion of April, right? And so what ends up happening is it becomes part of the problem for Joel Embiid. Is that a big part of that, his offensive approach just becomes useless when he gets to that point, which has consistently been a part of what causes his effectiveness to decline. Even when Embiid gets to the foul line in the playoffs, it's when he's physically aggressive towards the basket. But guys are allowed to press up on him more in the mid-range. Suddenly his mid-range jump shot percentage tanks like it did the last few postseasons, and then his offensive effectiveness goes down. So it's just objectively bad for everybody. It's bad for the fans. It's bad for the league. It's bad for Joel in the long run. And objectively, it drives me crazy to watch. Drives me crazy. And again, not Embiid's fault. It's 100% the NBA's fault. It's something I've been bitching and moaning about all season because it's literally hurting the game that I love. And I like, there was a play where Embiid caught at the top of the key and Naz Reid's guarding him and Embiid just rips through to the left and Naz slides his feet, takes the contact in the chest, and as Embiid runs into his chest, just throws up the ball. Literally just throws up the ball, gets rewarded with 2 free throws. Like I said, it's reprehensible. Straight up bad for the league. And it's a bummer because Joel Embiid is playing some of the best basketball in the NBA right now. Like I said, he's arguably the best regular season player right now. He's my favorite for MVP right now, as I said in our MVP rankings on Sunday last week. It is not an anti-Embiid take. It is 1,000% an anti-NBA take. Now, in addition to Joel Embiid busting everybody's ass, Tyrese Maxey is playing incredible. This is a tough matchup too. He's being guarded by Jaden McDaniels for a good portion of this game. And when you have Jaden McDaniels on ball and Rudy Gobert waiting for you in ball screens, it can be tough. It can be a tough challenge, right? But what's crazy is Maxey still had some plays against that. There was a play I clipped and put on my Twitter feed this morning where he sets up McDaniels for a screen, gets around to the left, and Gobert steps up and he straight up Euro steps around him and finishes with a left-handed scoop shot off the glass after getting into his body with his right shoulder. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is a superstar play that you're seeing right here. But one of the things that I wanted to highlight today specifically, and it's a concept that I talk about a lot on this show, is the offensive variability or versatility or, just the different approaches that Tyrese Maxey has on offense, which makes him harder to guard. So for instance, what's, Tyrese Maxey's advantage against Jaden McDaniels? Speed, right? That's his biggest advantage. That said, Jaden McDaniels is fast too, and he has length. And so especially if you get into the habit of spamming actions against him, he's going to win that battle a lot of the time. In my opinion, Jaden McDaniels is one of the top 2 or 3 perimeter defenders in basketball, right? But I want to emphasize movement shooting here for a second. Now, I want to highlight a specific play because this is something that Tyrese has been doing all season and killing teams with. So it's in the bench group, I think, and it was, I want to say, early fourth quarter. And Tyrese is pushing in transition. And he's trying to turn the corner on Jaden McDaniels. Can't, has to turn and throw the ball back out to Paul Reed. Soon as Paul Reed catches it, Tyrese just kind of gives a little shove to Jaden and then sprints out to the three-point line at the top of the key. Takes an escape step, like a long lunge step after he gets the dribble handoff from Paul Reed and rises up into a right-left footwork rise and fire off the catch jump shot. Nails it. And that's the thing. That is an entirely different type of offensive attack than an off-the-dribble ball screen or an off-the-dribble ISO or one of the many different actions that they might run where Tyrese is in a set position with Jaden on him and trying to get separation via screen or whatever from the perimeter. His ability to be like, well, you stopped me on this drive, but I'm a great movement shooter too. So you better get ready to lock and trail because I'm coming right back off that screen to my left, and he can do it to his right. This is a consistent thing that they run. They'll have him come out of the corner, and they'll run him off of a double stagger dribble handoff, and he'll just rise and fire from the left wing, coming off of a long arcing sprint. It's just a significant element of his offensive attack that prevents him from ever doing the same thing over and over again. And maintaining that variety and making sure that your attack has a different approach, not just so that you can make yourself harder to guard for that individual defender, but so that you have a different thing you can use on every single defender. This is something I've told you guys this story a bunch of times on the show, but I was a late bloomer, right? So when I was playing in college, I was just an athlete, right? So I guarded the other team's best player, took some spot up shots. I had some scoring games when I was in JUCO, but JUCO's lower level competition, it doesn't mean anything. Basically I was an athlete role player. And so as I got older, I developed into a more skilled perimeter oriented basketball player in my late 20s, early 30s. It was a transformation later, right? Because I was a late bloomer. I didn't play basketball when I was young. So what's interesting is I've encountered some of these things where it's okay, my core skill was that I could shoot. And especially as I got into my late 20s, I became a good shooter. In college, I was only an okay shooter. Became a good shooter when I was in my late 20s. And so I'm tall, 6'6", got long arms, and I can move really well. So guys, it got to the point where you just couldn't put a slower guy on me because if you did, I would just toast him off the dribble or he'd give me too much space and I would take those jump shots over the top. And I got really good at shooting pull-up threes. So what everybody started doing is putting a smaller, quicker player on me and pressing up on me. And doing that so that they could test my handle and make it so that, even if I try to make this move, this dude's quicker because he's a 6'2" guard and I'm this bigger wing player, right? And so I had to add things like a back to the basket post game. And then another big thing I added was movement shooting. I worked relentlessly on the same left-right, right-left footwork, depending on which angle I was coming off of a screen, just so that I could walk into every game and be like, who are you guarding me with? You guarding me with a little guard? Okay, I'm going to work out of the high post, low post this game. You're guarding me with a big, a slow guy, okay, I'm going to work primarily off the dribble from the perimeter. You're guarding me with a wing that has similar athleticism to me. Okay, now I'm going to need to use a combination of all three to try to keep the guy off balance, right? It's a vital part, in my opinion, of reaching scoring resiliency. There's scoring and then there's scoring resiliency. Scoring is like on any given night, if the conditions are right, I can put up numbers. Scoring resiliency is maintaining those numbers in varying conditions. And that to me is a big step forward, going from not just from good role player that can score to star, but also by going from star to superstar. And it's one of the things that makes Tyrese Maxey such an enticing young prospect, is like he's a great movement shooter. He's a great spot up player. And he's becoming a great pick and roll scorer as well. And that variety will give him all of the resiliency that I'm talking about to be the best version of a scorer that he can be. Really good win for the Sixers. You know, it's funny. They went on that stretch where they lost to a bunch of bad teams or beat a bunch of bad teams, and then they lost to Chicago the other night. And this is another one of my like prevailing basketball theories, which is when you play a bunch of bad teams in a row, you form bad habits. And the Chicago Bulls have been playing some damn good basketball. They get an excellent point of attack defense out of Alex Caruso and Javon Carter, and Kobe White's playing extremely well. DeMar DeRozan's starting to get it going, and it's like the Bulls are just good right now. So you are playing bad team night after night after night for like 2 weeks, and then suddenly a really good team comes to town. You're accustomed to a certain level of intensity, a certain level of focus, a certain level of overall effort, right? And then this good team comes to town, and sometimes there can be an adjustment period there. And so to bounce back from what was not a predictable loss to Chicago, but an understandable loss to Chicago with a big win over the team that I think has been playing the best basketball in the Western Conference in Minnesota. Good win for the Sixers. On the Wolves front, really hard to beat the Sixers in Philly when Embiid's getting that type of whistle. When he's got his mid-range jumper going, like I said, 11 for 14 from the mid-range. It just made it really, really difficult to guard them, right? Overall, though, the Wolves are playing really good basketball, and I love the formula they're building. Yes, they struggled with Embiid, but they've been shutting teams' water off, particularly perimeter stars around the league. I was watching Wolves Heat the other day, and Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels just like completely locked up Jimmy Butler down the stretch of that game, and Rudy Gobert had Bam in jail, forcing him into these really tough pull-up jump shots. There's this play where Bam finally gets like super physically aggressive because he's sick of Rudy Gobert, and like rips through to the left and like bumps him with that left shoulder and shoves Gobert off and tries to step through and get into the lane. Gobert recovered and swatted his ass into like a fast break opportunity for Anthony Edwards to go up and dunk with two hands. They are really good at pushing in transition selectively, not as much as I'd like to see them push a little bit more because they're a mediocre half-court offense, but they have been the fourth best team in the league this year at converting transition possessions into points, according to Cleaning the Glass, at 1.33 points per transition possession. As of right now, they're the only team in the league holding teams below 110 points per 100 possessions. They're at 107.5. My only concern right now with the Wolves really is their half-court offense, where they're 16th. And as I've said throughout the season, their ceiling will entirely come down to Anthony Edwards' half-court shot creation, in my opinion. He's just going to have to be a guy that can win rock fights by generating quality shots. And for whatever it's worth, he's been pretty good at that in the previous two postseasons.